My parents forbade me from falling in love until I was 28 because my sister barely survived her own love. But when I met Noah, I didn't just break a rule. I broke their world, and mine too. I'm Lily, 24 years old, female, and I've been living a double life for almost 3 years. My parents don't know that I'm married. Not just dating, not engaged, married. To understand how I got here, you have to know my family. My mom, Carol, has this soft voice that somehow cuts like glass when she's disappointed. My dad, Mark, doesn't shout. He just looks at you like you're something broken he can't fix. And then there's Olivia, my older sister. She used to be everything I wanted to be, radiant, reckless, wild in that way, that made everyone fall in love with her. Until she met Tyler. Tyler was the kind of guy who could make a room go quiet just by walking in. Charming, smooth, and dangerous in ways we didn't see until it was too late. The first time I saw him raise his voice at Olivia, I remember the sound more than the words. It wasn't loud, it was controlled. That kind of fury that's colder than yelling. He chipped away at her until she wasn't my sister anymore. Just this scared, shaky version of herself who flinched at shadows. By the time she finally left him, she wasn't really Olivia anymore. She was someone who survived him. The night she showed up at our doorstep, bruised and shaking, my parents made a silent vow. No man would ever get the chance to hurt me like that. They meant well, but good intentions can turn into a cage real fast. They decided I wasn't allowed to date, not just until I finished college, until I turned 28. They said it like a law, like gravity. You'll understand when you're older, my mom said. You're too trusting, my dad added. It wasn't up for debate. The problem was I'd already met Noah. Noah was in my literature seminar, the one guy who didn't talk over me, who didn't treat class like a stage. He had these steady eyes and this quiet way of making you feel safe. We started studying together, then grabbing coffee, and before I knew it, I was sitting in his car one night, telling him about Olivia, about the rules, about everything. I expected him to back off. Instead, he just said, "Then we'll be careful." And we were, for 3 years. Every date was a secret, every kiss, a risk. I'd tell my parents I was at the library when really I was with him, walking along the lake, watching bad movies in his tiny apartment, dreaming of a life that felt impossible. Olivia was the only one who knew. She'd smile, this sad little smile, and say, "Don't waste your life living someone else's fear." I didn't plan to fall in love this hard, but I did. And the day he slipped a ring on my finger, my heart broke a little, not from fear, but from knowing how much pain it was going to cause when the truth came out. I still remember the day Noah proposed. It wasn't one of those over-the-top, Instagram perfect moments. It was quiet, like most of our love had been. Just the two of us in his small apartment, the rain hitting the window, my head on his chest, while he traced circles on my hand. He didn't even kneel, he just whispered, "Marry me." At first, I thought he was joking. We talked about the future before, but always in that wistful way people do when they're pretending it could happen someday. Not soon, not now.
Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. Thank you very much. Enjoy watching.
But he was serious. His voice shook a little when he said, "I don't want to keep waiting for your parents to decide when your life starts." My heart dropped because he was right. I loved my parents. I really did. But they'd turned their fear into a prison, and I was serving the sentence for Olivia's heartbreak. I told him no at first. I said it with tears in my eyes. Told him I couldn't do that to my family. That I couldn't betray them like that. Noah just nodded, like he'd been expecting it. He didn't argue. He just said, "I'll wait. As long as it takes." And he meant it. He always meant what he said. Weeks passed, but his words wouldn't leave me alone. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking about what waiting really meant. Waiting until I was 28. Waiting to be trusted. Waiting for permission to live my own life. One night, I went to Olivia's place. She was folding laundry when I blurted out, "Noah proposed." She froze mid-fold, her hands clutching a t-shirt like she'd forgotten what to do with it. Then she looked at me with this mixture of shock and relief. "What did you say?" I told him no, because of Mom and Dad. She exhaled hard through her nose, the way she did when something hit too close to home. Then she sat down next to me and said, "Lily, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let fear make your choices for you." I started crying before I could stop myself. "But they'll hate me." "They might," she said softly, "but you'll hate yourself if you keep living for them." We sat in silence for a long time. Then she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "If you love him, marry him. I'll cover for you." That night, something in me shifted. It wasn't rebellion, it was survival. I was done apologizing for wanting happiness. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a courthouse clerk wearing Noah's oversized jacket and shaking so hard I could barely hold the pen. It wasn't how I imagined my wedding. No dress, no flowers, no family. Just him, me, a judge, and a promise whispered through tears. When it was over, Noah kissed me, like the world had finally stopped holding its breath. Driving home afterward, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Don't forget dinner tomorrow. Your dad wants to talk about grad school." And there I was, a newly married woman pretending to still be the obedient daughter they thought they controlled. That lie sat in my chest like a live wire. Every family dinner, every casual "You're too young to understand love," burned a little more. But the real storm didn't start until the night my mom found the ring. I was careless that night. That's how it started. I'd taken my ring off before dinner because my mom notices everything, even the smallest glint of something new. I usually kept it tucked in a little pocket inside my purse, but that night I forgot. I left it on my nightstand at home. When I came back from dinner, Mom was sitting on my bed. The ring was in her hand. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying. She was just staring at it, turning it slowly between her fingers, like she was examining a weapon. "Where did this come from?" she asked. Her voice was low, too calm. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. It didn't matter. She already knew. "It's Noah's, isn't it?" That name in her mouth sounded like poison. I sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. I wanted to tell her everything. How careful we'd been, how much he loved me, how Olivia trusted him. But she didn't want explanations. She wanted confession. "Mom," I said quietly, "please don't freak out. Don't freak out." Her laugh cracked like glass. "You've been lying to us for years, after everything Olivia went through, after what that man did to her. You go and I fell in love," I interrupted. "With someone good, someone kind." That was the wrong thing to say. She stood up so fast the ring flew from her hand and hit the carpet. "Do you even hear yourself, Lily? You sound just like your sister did. He's kind. He understands me. He's different. God, how could you do this to us?" "To you?" I snapped before I could stop myself. "You're not the one living my life." Her face hardened. "You don't understand what love costs. You've seen it destroy this family. We gave you rules to protect you, not control you." But control was exactly what it was. I could feel the old guilt creeping in, that sick pull that always made me back down. I took a deep breath and said the thing I'd been terrified to say out loud. "Mom, I married him." The silence after that was unreal, just her breathing, shallow, trembling. Then she whispered, "No, no, you didn't." I stood there, shaking. "We did it at the courthouse a few months ago. Olivia knows." Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "She knew? She helped you hide this?" Before I could answer, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. I heard her sobbing down the hall, then my dad's heavy footsteps, his voice rising in confusion. I grabbed my bag, my heart pounding, and ran. By the time I reached Noah's apartment, my phone had already exploded with missed calls. Dad, Mom, even Olivia. I didn't answer any of them. I just collapsed into Noah's arms and sobbed until my voice broke. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't say anything. He just held me while my whole world came apart. The next morning, the storm really hit. My dad showed up at Noah's apartment, and he wasn't calm like my mom had been. He was shaking with rage. I woke up to pounding on the door, the kind of pounding that shakes the walls. Noah was still half asleep when I whispered, "It's my dad." He blinked, disoriented. "Lily, wait." But it was too late. I'd already opened the door. My dad stood there in his work jacket, his face red and tight with fury. He didn't even look at me first. His eyes went straight to Noah. "You," he said, voice like a growl. "Get away from my daughter." "Dad, please. Don't you dare dad me," he snapped, pushing past me into the apartment. "You think I wouldn't find out? You think I wouldn't know the second your mother called me sobbing?" Noah stood his ground, but his hands were trembling slightly at his sides. "Mr. Walsh, please. I love her. We didn't mean to hurt anyone." That set him off. My dad grabbed a coffee mug off the counter and threw it, not at Noah, but at the wall. It exploded against the tile, coffee splattering everywhere like blood. "You think love excuses this kind of betrayal?" he shouted. "You lied to us. You lied to your own family." I could feel the heat in my chest rising. I stepped between them, tears already spilling. "Dad, stop it. We didn't lie to hurt you. We just wanted a chance to live without fear." "Fear?" he barked. "You have no idea what fear is. Watching your other daughter crawl back home, half dead after some bastard broke her ribs. That's fear." The words hit like a slap. I wanted to scream that Noah wasn't Tyler, that he'd never even raised his voice at me, that he treated me like something fragile and sacred. But my dad wasn't listening. He pointed at Noah, voice trembling. "You've poisoned her against her own family. You think you can just take her and build some secret little life? That's not love. That's manipulation." Noah's voice broke a little when he said, "Sir, with all due respect, I think you're wrong. We love each other. That's all this is." My dad took a step forward. "You're not her husband." I swallowed hard and said, "Yes, he is." That silence again, the kind that sucks all the air out of the room. Something in his face changed, like he'd aged 10 years in 2 seconds. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said quietly, "You married him." I nodded. Then he did something that shattered me. He turned around, walked to the door, and said, "You're no longer welcome in my house." He didn't yell it. He didn't even sound angry anymore, just tired, defeated. When the door slammed, it felt final, like a chapter closing so hard it cracked the spine of my life. Noah wrapped his arms around me, but I couldn't even cry. I just kept whispering, "He hates me." Olivia called a few hours later, voice shaky. "Mom's been crying nonstop. Dad's different, cold. He said you're dead to him for now." That "for now" haunted me. For the next few days, I lived in this weird fog, trying to be happy about being married, trying to ignore the fact that my parents now treated me like a stranger. Noah tried to distract me with little things. Take-out dinners, long walks, plans for a future that suddenly felt fragile. but I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over, and I was right. Because 2 nights later, my mom showed up at Noah's door, trembling, red-eyed, clutching a photo of our family. She didn't come to talk, she came to beg. Update. Hey everyone, I didn't expect so many people to respond to my post about marrying my husband in secret and my parents finding out. I didn't even mean for it to blow up like that. I just needed to breathe somewhere that wasn't full of yelling or tears. I read every comment. Some of you were harsh, called me selfish, said I betrayed my family, and some of you got it. The ones who said, your parents don't own your life just because they're scared of losing another daughter. Those hit hard. Thank you. Anyway, here's what happened after the last post. 2 nights after my dad stormed out, my mom showed up at our apartment. It was pouring rain. She looked smaller somehow, her makeup smudged, her hair soaked, clutching a framed photo of the 4 of us from before everything went wrong. Noah opened the door before I could stop him. Mrs. Walsh, she cut him off. Please, just Lily. Her voice cracked when she saw me. I didn't come to fight. I should have slammed the door, but I didn't, because even after everything, she was still my mom. She came in and just stood there looking around, taking in the photos on the wall, the books, the ring on my finger. Then she whispered, you really did it. I nodded. She started crying. Not the angry kind, the broken kind. Do you have any idea how terrified I am? After what happened to Olivia? I interrupted. Mom, this isn't Olivia's story. Noah isn't Tyler. You're punishing me for her pain. She sat down at our kitchen table, still clutching that photo. When your sister came home that night, I thought she was dead. Your father didn't sleep for days. We promised ourselves you'd never go through what she did. We thought we were protecting you. It hit me then. How much of their fear wasn't control but trauma. They built a cage because they couldn't stand to watch another daughter get destroyed, but the cage still broke me. I know you were scared, I said softly, but you didn't save me. You just made me disappear. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw guilt in her eyes instead of judgment. I just wanted you safe, she whispered. I am safe, I said, reaching for Noah's hand. Because I chose right. She didn't respond right away. Then she said, almost to herself, your father won't forgive this. I'm not asking him to, I said quietly. I just want you to understand. She stared at me for a long moment, then stood up and placed the framed photo on our counter. I'll try, she said, but you have to give him time. And then she left. When the door closed, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Noah hugged me and whispered, that's something, right? It was. For a moment, it felt like peace might be possible. But the thing about peace, it's fragile, and my dad wasn't done. 3 days later, he showed up again. Not to talk, but to take me home. He'd called Olivia, dragged her into it, and said if I didn't end my mistake of a marriage, he'd make sure Noah paid for what he did. That was the night everything turned from heartbreak to war. When my dad showed up again, there was no rain this time. Just that heavy, suffocating quiet that comes before something breaks. He didn't knock. He just pounded once and shoved the door open, like it still belonged to him. Noah and I were on the couch, half watching some mindless TV, trying to pretend life was normal. But the moment I saw my father's face, I knew it wasn't a visit. It was an invasion. Get your things, he said. His tone was so flat, it scared me more than if he'd yelled. Dad, now Lily, Noah stood up. Mr. Walsh, please. You can't just... My dad turned on him. You stay the hell out of this. You've done enough damage already. Olivia was behind him. Her arms were crossed, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept. When our eyes met, she gave me this tiny, helpless shake of her head, like she tried to stop him and failed. Dad, I'm not leaving, I said. I live here now. This is my home. He moved closer, his jaw tight. No, your home is with your family. You're confused, and this man? He jabbed a finger at Noah. He's taken advantage of you. Taken advantage? I laughed, though my hands were trembling. You think I'm a child? I chose this. Then you chose wrong, he snapped, and you're going to fix it before it ruins you. Noah stepped forward then, his voice calm but firm. Sir, with respect, you're crossing a line. Don't you tell me about lines, my dad said, and shoved him. Hard. It happened so fast. Noah stumbled backward, hit the edge of the table. The sound made something in me snap. I pushed between them, shouting, Stop it, both of you. But my dad wasn't listening. His face was red, his eyes glassy. You think you know love? You think this is what it looks like? Yeah, I said, shaking, tears blurring my vision. It looks like someone who doesn't scream at me when I make my own choices. For a second, he just stared at me. Then he pointed at Noah again and said, if you really cared about her, you'd let her go. Noah looked at me, then back at him. I'll never let her be treated like a prisoner again. That was it. My dad turned and stormed out. Olivia lingered a moment, her eyes full of something between fear and pity. He's not done, she whispered. You should lock your door tonight. When she left, I finally collapsed against Noah. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. He's going to come after you, I whispered. He just kissed the top of my head and said, then he'll have to go through me. I didn't sleep that night. Neither of us did. We just sat in the dark, waiting for a knock that didn't come. But I should have known. My dad didn't need to show up to make war. He could do damage from a distance. The next morning, Noah's boss called him in. Someone had sent an anonymous email with photos of us, screenshots of my fake library nights, and accusations that Noah had been dating a student. It wasn't true. He was a grad assistant when we met, but it was enough to cause chaos. Noah didn't say a word when he came home. He just sat down, eyes blank, and whispered, "Your dad did this, didn't he?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. That night, something inside me hardened. The guilt, the fear, it all burned off until there was only clarity left. If my father wanted to destroy Noah to prove a point, fine. But he'd never expect me to fight back, so I did. And my revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was careful, deliberate, everything my dad had never let me be. I didn't sleep for days after that. Every time Noah's phone buzzed, I jumped, half expecting it to be another accusation, another consequence of my father's fury. Noah was suspended pending investigation, which was university talk for "we don't believe you, but we'll pretend to be fair." He was calm about it, but I could see the exhaustion behind his eyes, the quiet kind that comes from trying to stay decent while someone's tearing your life apart. "I'm so sorry," I kept saying. And every time he'd whisper, "It's not your fault." But it was. I knew exactly who my father was when he left that night. I knew how far he'd go when he felt cornered. He'd always been the man who handled fear with control, who turned pain into punishment. I just never thought he'd come for Noah. That was the day I decided I wasn't going to play defense anymore. Olivia called me that afternoon. Her voice was small. "Dad's bragging," she said. "He thinks he's saving you. He told Mom Noah's getting what he deserves." I sat in silence for a second. Then I said, "Good." "Good?" she whispered. "Yeah. Let him think he's winning." Because I had a plan. One that started with the person he underestimated the most. Olivia herself. Olivia was the family's walking cautionary tale, the broken daughter. The one they spoke about in lowered voices. But what my parents didn't realize was that Olivia was stronger than any of us. She'd rebuilt herself from the ground up, quietly, methodically. And she kept everything. Every text, every photo, every medical record from the years with Tyler. I asked her, "Would you trust me with it? The truth? All of it?" She hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to show them what they've done, what fear turned them into." A few days later, I met with my mom at the coffee shop near her work. I knew she'd show up. Curiosity always won with her. She looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed, the weight of everything she refused to understand sitting on her shoulders. "I'm not here to fight," I said, sliding an envelope across the table. "Just look at these." Inside were copies of Olivia's photos and hospital discharge papers, along with a letter I'd written in shaky, angry handwriting. "This is what happens when you choose control over love. You tried to protect us, but you've been repeating his violence in quieter ways. You didn't save Olivia. You silenced her. And now you're trying to do it to me." She didn't even finish reading before she started crying. "I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you small," she said. "But I see it now. God, I see it." It was the first time she'd ever admitted fault. But the real revenge wasn't for her. It was for him. That night, I called my father. My voice didn't shake. "Dad, I need you to come to Olivia's." He hesitated. "Why?" "Because you deserve to hear the truth from the daughter you actually broke." When he walked into Olivia's apartment the next evening, she was waiting, strong, steady, and unafraid. She didn't scream or cry. She just spoke. About Tyler. About the nights she tried to hide bruises. About how Mom's denial and Dad's silence made it worse. He tried to interrupt, but she didn't let him. "You couldn't stop him," she said. "So you tried to stop us. You turned protection into control. And look what it did." For once, my father had no words. He just sat there, staring at his hands, realizing that every rule, every punishment, every cruel thing he'd said came from a place he didn't even want to look at. Noah's suspension was lifted a week later after the university found the email, traced back to a VPN account. One created with my father's work credit card. He lost his job. I didn't say a word to him, neither did Olivia. But Mom did. She packed a bag and left. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. The silence after everything fell apart was almost too loud. No more screaming phone calls, no more midnight knocks on the door. Just stillness. The kind that feels heavy, like the air's waiting for you to decide what comes next. A month passed before I saw my dad again. Mom was living with Olivia for a while, and Noah and I had finally started to breathe again. He'd gotten reinstated at work, though he didn't celebrate much. "It's not a victory," he said. "It's just justice catching up." I remember thinking that justice always comes late, but at least it comes. The day my dad showed up, it was cold, early spring. He looked smaller, older. The kind of tired you don't sleep off. I was in the garden out front when he walked up, hands shoved deep in his coat pockets. "Lily," he said, just my name. Not angry, not demanding. I didn't move toward him, but I didn't walk away either. "I came to say I'm sorry," he said. "For everything. For treating you like you were gonna break before you even got the chance to live." I kept my voice steady. "You nearly destroyed Noah's career." He nodded, shame written all over his face. "I know, I was angry, scared. I thought if I punished him, I could undo it. Undo the fear. Undo Olivia." That's when I saw it. Not the monster I'd been fighting, but a man drowning in the wreckage of his own regret. For a long time, I thought that what I wanted was revenge, but standing there, watching him crumble, I realized I didn't need him to hurt anymore. I just needed him to see. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said quietly. He nodded again. You don't have to. I just needed you to hear it. Then he turned and left. No theatrics, no final words, just the sound of his boots fading down the sidewalk. Inside, Noah was waiting, leaning against the doorway. He didn't ask what my dad had said. He just wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was choosing between the man I loved and the family I came from. Weeks later, Mom invited us all to dinner. Me, Noah, Olivia, even Dad. I expected another explosion, but it was quiet. Awkward at first. Then Olivia made a joke about the burnt lasagna, and somehow we all started laughing. Real laughter. The kind we hadn't shared in years. Dad reached for his glass and said, to starting over. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't perfect, but it was something. That night, after everyone had gone home, I stood outside with Olivia. She squeezed my hand and said, you did it, you know. Did what? Broke the cycle. And she was right, because love, real love, isn't about fear or control. It's not about protecting people so tightly they stop breathing. It's about trust and choice, and sometimes defiance. When I went inside, Noah was waiting with 2 mugs of tea. He handed me one and said, so, Mrs. Walsh, ready for the rest of forever? I smiled. That kind of smile that comes when you finally know you're free. I already am.